Hello people of YouTube, Pixie here, and today on my channel we are doing another tea talk. But in this video we are going to be talking about housing options at Cal, which I know this is a video that a lot of you have requested, so it's finally here. And just before we get started, today I am drinking chamomile, that is today's blend. And I want to just mention that I am going to be going over 3 housing options at Cal, the co-ops, the dorms, and apartments. And I'm not going to go super in depth, but I will kind of hit the main points, basically what is it, how much does it cost, and like kind of like general features about it or general facts about it, but not super in depth because I do plan on making like a series of these where I go more in depth into each option. But this is like the general overview of the different housing options at Cal. So let's just go ahead and get right started with this. And I am going to at first talk about the co-ops because that is what I am most familiar with, because while I was at Cal I did live in the co-ops. And I do have a lot of this information on my phone, so I apologize if I look down at it too often, but I just want to make sure that I have accurate information that I am providing you. So let's get started. So the co-ops. What is a co-op? So a co-op stands for cooperative living. And basically, in this case, it means that a bunch of students all got together, and it is basically students just living together in a bunch of different houses or apartments. So in cooperative living, you do your cooking together, you do your cleaning together. There's like a lot of communal space for you to kind of roam around and interact with other people, at least in the houses. So there are 2 different types of locations in the co-ops. You can either live in a house, which I believe the Berkeley Student Cooperative has 17 houses and 3 different apartment complexes. Chances are, if you have never lived in a co-op at Berkeley before, if you've never been a part of the BSc, you probably won't at first live in the apartments, just because the way it works is on like a hierarchy system. So the longer you live there, the more kind of points you gain, and each semester you gain a point, and the higher points you have, the more likely you are to able to like snag a spot at the apartments. So chances are you'll probably be living in a house, and there are 17 different houses, and they all have different themes. I can go over a few right now. So I lived in Cloyne. Academic themed was like our theme, academic. And then other co-ops, there is an LGBT house. There is a there are a few different ones. Let me like look at this list though. Oh, there is a vegan house. There is the Afro house. There is now a new one, which is a person of color house. That's like super recent. And there are female only or female identifying only co-ops as well. So that's like the main gist of all of the different co-ops. And so each house has a different amount of people living in it. So they're not all the same size. Some houses are a lot smaller than others. For example, there is a house called Casa Zimbabwe. That is a pretty big house, one of the larger ones, and it has like 125-ish people, I think. Yeah, but there are smaller houses if you prefer a smaller house. There are middle-sized houses as well, so it just ranges, and depending on what you want to live in, there is like pretty much a house for everyone. And so yeah, basically you would live in a co-op, and you are working with people to have a reduced rent. So the reason why the co-ops are so much cheaper than like an apartment, let's say, is because it is completely student run. So everything in the house is like kept up by the students. Like the students are doing the cooking, the students are doing the cleaning, and all of this different housework, which is called work shift. And when you do your work shift, it's kind of like reducing your rent because you're doing your work shift. So that's why it's like cheaper. And it also comes with food. The co-ops come with food. You can actually also basically not live at the co-ops at all and just pay for the food portion. So you can come and like dine at the co-ops and you'll pay for that, but you won't actually like live there. You'll just get the food and like access to the kitchen. So there's a communal kitchen. There are communal bathrooms. So in my house, Cloyne, for example, there were single, like, how can I explain this? So there's a bunch of rooms. There was 150 people who lived in the house, pretty big house. And there are bathrooms on like every floor. In my case, there were multiple bathrooms on every floor, but I know at other co-ops there's like one bathroom or two bathrooms per floor, and it's shared by all genders. And yeah, but at Cloyne, they were like individual bathrooms versus communal bathrooms, if that makes sense, which was like a thing for me. I liked that Cloyne had individual bathrooms, but yeah, that's something to know if you're gonna live in the co-ops. And same thing with the dorms, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So co-ops, you do your work shift 5 hours per week, unless you have some kind of like reason why you can't do 5 hours a week, then you can have a reduced work shift load, but each week you do generally 5 hours of work shift, which can be, you can be gardening, that can be your work shift. It's just a way of giving back to your house, and everyone does it, and that's why rent is cheaper. It is run by, as I said, the students, but we do have a place where we go to like do all the administrative paperwork and stuff like that. And for the co-ops, if you want to live in the co-ops, I really highly recommend literally applying as soon as you finish this video, just because the co-ops are extremely competitive, they're extremely popular, a lot of people want to live there because it is so cheap, and a lot of people like the co-op lifestyle, and it gets really popular. So I highly recommend applying ASAP. I even applied literally before I got into UC Berkeley, like before I knew, just because I knew how competitive the housing would be. I applied like literally before I got in, and then by the time I got there, which ended up being in the spring, it worked out perfectly, but it took that long for me to be able to find a spot in the co-ops just because it was so popular. Now, you do get like bumped up on the list, like there's a waiting list. If you have certain like status, like for example EOP status, I think you get like a bump up in the waiting list. So yeah, I definitely recommend applying. And I also actually recommend basically to everyone I talk to the co-ops about to apply, even if you think you're never gonna live there, just because the whole thing about co-ops is it's based off of a point system. Like you get a better room if you have more points. And let's say you and another person both started living in the co-op at the exact same time. Whoever applied first, whose ever application went through the co-ops first, has a higher application number than, you know, so whoever did it first has the higher application number, and that person has more priority. So if me and Jenny, let's just say, both applied, we both have 0 points, let's say, in the house, because when you first come in, you have 0 points. So that means you are last on the list of who gets to choose which room, because there's a whole bidding process of which room you get in the house. There are triples, there are doubles, there are singles, and chances are when you have 0 points, you're not going to be able to get a single, right? However, you could potentially choose a more likable triple or a likable double if you have a higher application number than someone who has an equal amount of points to you. I hope that makes sense, but I remember that was a thing with me. I applied a really long time ago, and even though I had 0 points, it wasn't as bad because my application number was still higher than some people. Yeah. It sounds confusing, but I promise once you live there, it's not as confusing, and I recommend you reading more about it online, and I will make a video going way more in depth into the co-ops. But basically, yeah, it comes with food and pricing. Let's talk about pricing. So you pay the same no matter which co-op you live in and no matter what room size you have. So if you live in a triple, you still pay the same as someone who is living in a single. That's just the way it works. And the apartment pricing is a little bit different, but we'll get into that right now. So let me look at the pricing. So, okay, so I am on their website, and for the year 2017 to 2018, the room and board, the total per semester is $3,441, and they do it in like installments, so they'll charge you 3 times, I believe. So the first payment that is due with your contract is $1,147, and the second payment, which is due like in September, is the same price, and then the third payment in October is also the same price. So 3 payments of $1,147. and the total again is like 3,441 for the semester. And then it breaks it down by apartment. There are, like I said, 3 different apartments. You do pay different prices dependent upon what apartment you live in. That is different, but for the co-ops it isn't by size, but the apartments it is. And there are different prices here. It looks like for a studio apartment in the north side apartments, it's the same price, 3,000, or it's a little bit cheaper actually, 3,144. And the apartments in the co-ops, I should mention, do not come with food. So they are a little bit more expensive because it is like more private and there is no communal space. It is literally just an apartment. However, there's no food. So a lot of people, either, you can just buy groceries like you're living in a regular apartment, or what a lot of people like to do is, like how I mentioned earlier, they will come to board at a co-op, and so they will pay whatever the boarding price is at that house, and they will have access to a kitchen in a co-op house and eat and dine there. I know it sounds confusing, but I promise it's really not that confusing. I'm trying to be as clear as possible, but basically that's what happens. So let's move on into the dorms. So I never lived in a dorm, but I know a lot of people that did, and I have the information on my phone. So there are, hold on, let me see if I can get this correctly. Dorms, okay. So it looks like there are, I have written down here, 6 residential halls. So we're going to talk about Unit 1, and then we're going to talk about Foothill. These are 2 different places. They also have 5 apartment complexes, I think, but we're just going to talk about like the dorms basically. So in the dorms, general information here is we're going to talk about Unit 1, and Unit 1 is a pretty popular dorm, and it says here that most floors are all gender, and it also says that there generally is 1 large all gender bathroom per floor. It does say that there are single gender floors available, and they also have access to things like, I think there's like a person who checks you in, like a security person up front, like a security monitor. And then it says there are approximately 230 students in each hall, because I believe in Unit 1 there are 6 different kind of halls. It says rooms with high-speed internet connections, main lounge on entry level, floor lounges with balconies, and it says that there is substance-free areas. And also I know within the dorms there are different dorms also have different themes throughout, so hopefully you can find something that fits your needs, and I think they try to make it, there's something for everybody kind of deal. Let's see, so for Foothill it says that they are suites. So the difference between, I think, Unit 1 and Foothill is the like type of room style. So like in Unit 1 you have a room, which sounds kind of like the co-ops away, like you walk in and you're like on a floor and there's like rooms. However, in Foothill it seems like there are suites. So it says all gender floors and single gender suites. Room occupancy, single, double, triple, quadruple rooms and suites. Single rooms are reserved for upper division students and students with accommodations. Single gender suites with 1 shared bathroom, and oh, so see, the bathroom situation is different here too. And then it says all gender suites with 2 single gender bathrooms. It says other features. There are an academic service center with PC and Mac workstations, shared dining center with high ceilings. I'm just reading off the thing. But basically, yeah, so those are 2 options that you can have at the dorms. There are a million different dorms, so I'm literally just going over 2. I hope to make a video that's a little bit more in depth. But basically, I think you have a pretty good general idea of what a dorm is. It's basically like the quintessential college kind of thing that we all think of when you're going to live in a dorm. So it looks like it's $6,990 per semester. So that is the price of living in a dorm. And oh, here it says rates are per person. Oh, and include housing with a standard meal plan for the academic year. So I was wrong. It says except apartments, which are room only. Okay, so it does include food. It says the rates listed reflect the cost of the standard meal plan. Students who choose the premium meal plan are charged an extra $175 per semester. Okay, that's good to know. So, okay, here it is. Payment. 5 fall installments. So 5 installments of $1,398.40 each. If you were doing this in a full year, and it says the academic year total is $13,984, which I believe when you do half of that, so per semester, if we were doing it like the co-ops, is $6,990. Yeah. Okay, so that covers the dorms, that covers the co-ops, and now we will move into apartments, which I don't have that much information on, so that might be the shortest. But it says here that there are like apartments that are affiliated kind of with Cal, but are not the apartments through UC Berkeley, if that makes sense. Like, they're affiliated properties. So let me just click on this one, New Sequoia Apartments. Okay, so it says New Sequoia is a new structure with 42 apartments on 5 stories. These apartments are designed in a U-shaped blah blah blah. Student capacity 116. It says there are 2 staff, 42 units. Each apartment is single gender, all gender facility. Single beds are full size. There's Wi-Fi. Bedroom. It looks like it's fully furnished. Let's see what else. So the projected rates. Double occupancy in 1 bed, 1 bath. It has it by month and per year, and this is per person. If this was shared between 2 people, this is per person still. So it would be $14,560 per year per person, and that comes out to $1,456 per month. And then single occupancy in a 2-bedroom, 1 bath is $15,600 per person per year. Oh my goodness, and $1,560 per month. And then it just goes down the list. Also, of course, there are different apartments. That's just like one that I clicked on that's affiliated with the campus. But yeah, I hope that kind of gives a general idea of different options. I also know that for the dorms, different, like, for example, like transfer students versus freshmen, it's different. I think the longer you live somewhere, you probably have more seniority. That just seems to be the way it works around, like all around. And yeah, just so you know too, freshmen actually can live in the co-ops. My roommate, the first time I ever lived in a co-op, was a freshman. It was her 2nd semester, and she was super chill, but that's another point, that's another story. But so freshmen can live in the co-ops. I don't know why I always thought that they couldn't. I always thought freshmen had to live in the dorms. I don't know if you have to the first semester. I'm not really sure because I was never a freshman attending UC Berkeley. Leave me in the comments if you are a freshman at UC Berkeley and you know about living in the co-ops, like first semester. Yeah, but hopefully this video helped a little bit. Sorry it's so long, there's just a lot of information, and I tried to hit on like main points. I know I went a little bit in depth with the co-ops, that's just because I lived there for so long, and I will make a much more in-depth video explaining like every single other thing, more in detail. I hope this video helped. Comment below what you think, and make sure you are subscribed to this channel if you aren't, and I love you all so much, and I will see you all in my next video.